Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Kaya Henderson, and I am super proud to be an Aspen Institute trustee. I'm also the CEO of Reconstruction, which is a curriculum and technology company that teaches African American history and culture to young people and helps teachers create more culturally responsive lessons. I am so excited to join three amazing leaders today who are all this year's McNulty Prize Catalyst Fund recipients. This is an award that's given by the McNulty Foundation and the Aspen Institute in partnership. And the Catalyst Fund supports fellows at the Aspen Institute whose ventures are poised to grow and to deepen their impact. I want to start by thanking the generous supporters and donors of the Catalyst Fund, especially the McNulty family. I am here in part because last year I was a Catalyst Fund recipient, and as a startup co-founder with an idea that I thought could change the world, I can't tell you the impact when an organization such as Aspen or organizations like Aspen and McNulty take a look at the work that you're doing and also think that it's world changing and want to support you. The prize helps to publicize the work that you're doing. It broadens the network of people who you're able to engage with. And it's just been a pleasure to be an awardee. And so I'm super excited that you all get to meet these amazing folks today. And we're about to get to it. But first, let me just explain to you that this is one part of a two-part series. Next Tuesday, you can tune in for a second conversation at the same time. But today, we'll speak with three leaders who are driving emerging solutions that are shifting paradigms. We're here to explore with them how can we break old patterns and create a more inclusive future? What does it take as a leader to do this work? And other penetrating questions. Today's event follows a round robin format. It's probably unlike anything that you've seen before. In fact, instead of me interviewing each fellow will interview one another, and then we'll all come together for a collective discussion. As the audience, we hope that you will engage with us, and the best way to do that is through the chat. And so I'd like to first introduce our first interview, which is with Alex Bailey of Black Outside. And Alex will be interviewed by Yemi AD.
Hello, hello. My name is Yemi. Hi, Kaya. Thank you so much. I am here signing in from Prague, Czech Republic. I am founder of Moonshot Platform, and I'm also Henry Crown Fellow of 2019 Moonshot class. I have the honor to introduce to you Aspen Global Innovators Group's Healthy Communities Fellow, Alex Bailey, founder of Black Outside Incorporation, who is joining us from Central Texas. Welcome, Alex.
Hello, how's it going? Thank you so much for that beautiful
Hey,
introduction.
good to see you again. I'm a big fan of your work, and I can't wait to hear and also to share with everybody who is online all the great work that you do. You often describe Black communities' experience of the outdoors as one both of tragedy and triumph. Can you explain what this means for the community? How does this dichotomy impact your programming with Black Outside?
Yeah, thank you so much for that beautiful question. I think when we as Black folks collectively go into outdoor spaces, go into nature, we're holding two different things, two different emotions, right? At least in the context of America. The first emotion is just the beauty and connectedness to the natural world that all of us as humans experience. The wonder of seeing the trees blossoming like I know they are in the Midwest and the East Coast. I just left there. And just the beauty of just connecting with the earth and smelling the fresh roses and tulips, right, during springtime. We feel that, right? But then also in the backdrop of that, many of us, especially as we go into deep wilderness spaces, feel also the tragedy of our experience as Black Americans in the United States. For many generations, we were told and literally not allowed to go to certain places. It was unsafe for a lot of our ancestors and our elders to travel to certain places. And today, for many Black folks in America, they feel unsafe in some of the deeper, more wild spaces and remote spaces in the United States. And so we honor both those things by ensuring that we're creating and cultivating safe spaces for Black youth so they feel connected and that they can still continue to like push and expand their own boundaries of connectedness to the natural world.
Amazing. Alex, I'm curious about something that you have experienced firsthand. What would be your highlight and aha moment that you had, if you can be like specific in what you have experienced while doing the great work that you do?
Yeah, so this year for Black Outside, we are celebrating our 5th year anniversary, which is very exciting. We started in 2019, then obviously a lot happened in 2020. So we had a very unique trajectory, unlike a lot of nonprofits who may have started a little bit before us. But during our first camping trip, that was one of our first aha moments. So we took a group of high school Black boys who had never been camping before for our first kind of pilot experience in the outdoors. And we took them on this night hike here in Texas. And there's an old song that's kind of famous around the US that you learn as a kid that says like the stars at night in Texas are big and bright. And so it's interesting though, because in the city, it's hard to see the stars. And so coming back to stars in a second, we went on a night hike and we hiked for about 2 to 3 miles in the night with a bunch of teenage boys and they were all ramped up and we were joking with each other. And then we got to this beautiful overlook and I told the boys to turn off their headlamps and they did. I said, look up. And to see a group of high school boys start to tear up and start to cry because they said they had never seen stars like that before. And then, the aha moment was when it clicked, when I just told them and our other mentors that were there told them, hey, these are the same stars your ancestors looked up at night, dreaming of y'all doing stuff like this, dreaming of the freedom that you have in this moment to live into the wildest possibilities that you can imagine. And so look at these stars and think about them. And that's when we all kind of broke down. And that was an aha moment of feeling that deep connection to nature, of honoring that tragedy, but also seeing the triumph of our experience and our connectedness to the outdoors.
Wow, that's beautiful. I feel like looking up at the stars, it's part of our dreaming, the process of dreaming, looking up. But also what's beautiful is that the same stars all of us can see, whether we are in China, in Russia, in United States, in Czech Republic, or in the Middle East, it's the same stars we're looking at. So thank you for that example. Change can often face resistance. Tell us, how have you navigated resistance within communities when introducing new paradigms or solutions? Can you share your maybe success story where resistance was transformed into active support for positive change?
Yeah, it's interesting here in our home city of San Antonio, where we're based. San Antonio is not known as an outdoor city, right? Whatever that means. Here in the United States, some folks would think of like Denver and San Diego as these outdoor cities where people are climbing and surfing and hiking all the time. But I think what the biggest resistance that we felt is really thinking about challenging the narrative of what does outdoorsy mean, right? Does it always mean climbing a mountain? Does it always mean going to some remote wilderness? Or does outdoorsy also mean having a barbecue at a city park with your family? Does it mean having a picnic with the DJ outside and dancing with your cousins, right? Does it also mean gardening with your elders in your community? All those are forms of being outside and in nature. And so one success story I feel like we've had is like with our local community and around our state is really expanding this impact and this idea of what outdoors can be. Like for us as an organization, yes, like we take kids backpacking in the Colorado Rocky Mountains, right? And we've taken kids surfing and climbing to do some of the more higher outdoor recreation activities. But we've also hosted barbecue classes outdoors with some of our programs. We also have done yoga and meditation outdoors. Hopefully, in the next year, we want to do a skating session outdoors, right? Those are all ways of connecting to nature. So I think that's been our biggest success is for a lot of folks in our community seeing us as an example that being outside or outdoorsy doesn't have to look one way. It can look multiple ways, and we try to honor that with our youth.
Mhm. Because I feel like you are in the epicenter, you're very proximate to those young people. Do you see any shift if you look at your work in the years that you're doing this? Is it that the people today need something differently than people of few years ago? Where is the youth that you're working with? Where is it shifting?
Yeah, gosh, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing is access to technology and information. I think it's really cool for our youth today. If they ask ahead of time, they're like, "Where are we going hiking next? When's our next event?" And then I'll tell them it's like this national park, and the youth will go on the Instagram page. They'll start looking up, Googling things. They're like, Are we going on this trail or this trail?" So especially when they're really excited about visiting a park, it's really, really powerful. And I think that's the biggest shift is like so many youth have so much access to information that they are actually so much more curious about the world around them. They want the information. And then the other side of that I'll say real quick is that, there's also an assumption, I think, from us, older folks and sometimes the adults, right, quote unquote, that we're like, oh, youth want to be on their phones all the time. That's actually not true. Many of our youth, when they get outdoors, they actually are like, hey, I actually only want to take some pictures and I want to put my phone away. I actually want a break. And so I think that's something that we're really starting to see as like this next generation of youth come through our program, that many of them actually want to disconnect from technology a little bit more in order to experience what they feel like is this nostalgia. Sometimes as they say, what was it like in the late 1900s? That's what they joke with me about. They want to do that, right? They want to be disconnected because our folks as adults have been putting phones and technology in their faces since they were babies, right? And sometimes they just want to break too.
I think this is a really beautiful testimony. It's maybe the first time I'm hearing someone saying that. I think that if they hear you, the youth are very proud that they have an advocate like yourself. Um, when I travel around United States and the world to teach about creativity and freedom and how to imagine different future and shape, part of that work is about being able to reconnect to your core. And many people, when I ask them, how do you reconnect to your core? How do you recharge inspiration? Many people always say, going to the forest, going to nature, maybe meditate in the nature, maybe, different things that they do in the nature. How do you think that your young people are recharging inspiration when being outside?
Hmm. I think so much of that recharge is connecting to community, right? I think what's really powerful about our youth and our programs is we get youth from like a lot of different backgrounds. So, one narrative that we always have to deconstruct sometimes when people hear about our work, which is real, we say, "Oh, we're working with Black youth," and people assume that all of our youth are coming from economically under-resourced neighborhoods, right? And I'm like, no, we have some of our programs. I said some of our babies be flying in first class for a summer camp, right? And so we have youth from different socioeconomic backgrounds. And I think the beauty of our programming and what's really inspires our own youth is just for our kids, some of our kids who grew up on, the predominantly Black side of town are like, wait a second, I didn't even know there were Black kids on the Northwest side, right? And then they're meeting those youth and then thinking about their similar experiences as young Black kids in America or in their home city and what's that like. And then they're thinking about that and unpacking that in these beautiful nature spaces, right? Which is really powerful. So I think what's really beautiful about our program is really the community that's fostered, and we realize that nature is one of the most powerful places to do that. When we're camping and going on our more extreme wilderness adventures with our kids, they have to rely on each other. We have our talk about that. I'm like, hey, like whoever your tent mate is, if your tent blows down at night, don't come knocking on Mr. Alex instead. Y'all gonna have to figure that out, because it's gonna take me at least 10 to 15 minutes to get up, So if you want the quickest way to figure it out is through yourselves. And it's a beautiful speech. And like they set up their tents together, they're sharing backpacking meals together, they're cooking for each other. They're cultivating, and one big thing we cultivate a sense of home in the outdoors. We want these nature experiences to feel like another home for them. And so that's been a really beautiful thing for our youth.
Tell me, Alex, is there an origin story? I feel like you are so enthusiastic about your work, and it's beautiful to hear you share these stories because I can see it runs through your veins. What was the origin of it? Like why are you this passionate about it? What was in the beginning of it? Why did you start this?
Oh man, so many origin stories. I mean, I could always start from like my grandfather, who was the first Black garden director at our home city of Mansfield, Ohio, and his deep connection to the land. But I really feel like my aha moment, outside of like spending hours in the garden as a kid with him, was I worked as a summer camp counselor in the Northeast in New Hampshire. At a all boys 7 week camp. You can imagine how much fun that was. I have tons of stories for that on a different date. 7 weeks, the same group of boys, about 200 of them. It was a lot and overnight. And so we were on the lake, and it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. But the camp costs a lot of money to attend. And there was not that much diversity at the camp. And so I love my experience. I love my campers. I had the same group of campers for 3 years. So I looped up with them from cabin to cabin. And what I saw with those campers was how much they grew before my eyes each summer. I mean, they were just more confident going back to community. They were able to really build this community in their bunk. They were able to work out like critical thinking skills, work through conflict, like all these big 21st century skills that we know any workplace needs. Right? I saw my kids, as they spent more time in nature, really develop those skills. And so my last year that I was there, we went on this beautiful hike in the White Mountains in the Northeast. It's a famous mountain range. And we hiked up 2 miles, and we got to the top of this beautiful waterfall. And the guide who hiked us up there said, he goes, "Hey, all right, now it's time to jump off." And I was like, "What?" And it was a 12-foot waterfall drop. And so we get there, and the kids start jumping off, and they're chanting my name. And it's like just this blissful moment of beautiful energy of like camp, outdoors, adventure. I jumped off, I swam out, and when I got out of the water, I looked around, and I just remember thinking, I love this experience, but there's no kids here that look like me. And that stuck in
Hmm.
my mind, right? That
Hmm.
experience right there stuck in my mind. And so
That's so
after
powerful.
spending 4 years in education and 3 years as a leadership coach in education, I was like, we have to just start a program that hits this on the head, that says like the intention of this program is to reconnect more Black youth to the outdoors. Because if not, they'll get
Amazing.
lost.
Um,
Mhm.
Amazing, amazing. Alex, we have the last 30 seconds, and I want to get a chance for you to ask whoever is watching this. I think your program is awesome. I think we need more programs like yours. We need to be able to bring more kids to do this. Uh, how can we help? How can anybody who is listening help your organization?
Thank you so much. Well, in 20 seconds, I'll give them a quick pitch. First and foremost, you can like just support our work if you're on social media, at blackoutside_Inc. You can find us, the adventures, great photos of our kids. But I also think obviously donating to support our work. All of our programs are free and reduced cost for families. So we don't believe there should be any barriers to a young person experiencing the outdoors.
Great job. Congratulations. So proud and honored to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so
Alex,
much.
the floor is yours. You are the next to interview our common fellow. Let's
All
go for it.
right. Yes. Well, thank you, Yemi, for that. You did great. Now I got to follow up as an interviewer. Thank you so much for those beautiful questions. Again, y'all, just as a recap, I'm Alex. You've heard me speak enough for the last 12 to 15 minutes, but I have the proud honor of interviewing Jack Su, who is in beautiful Beijing, China right now, and to talk about his work. So real quick, just a quick background for Jack. Jack is the proud founder of the Chi Social Innovation Center. Welcome, Jack. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Alex. Really glad to be here, and it's a great honor to receive the McNulty Award.
Yes, great. And you're also the Aspen Global Leaders Network China Fellow. Am I right on that?
Yeah, that's right. So I was nominated into the Aspen Fellowship, China Fellowship in 2017, and I'm in class 5. And our country director, Aspen Spring Fu, actually told me that I'm the first Aspen Fellow from China to receive this award. So really honored to receive this.
Oh man, well, congratulations. And just like reading your story, learning about your work. You're a leader in social innovation, right? Obviously within like a leadership program and a network. And so I guess that actually ties the perfect segue to my first question for you, Jack. And that's, you've previously mentioned that China has been characterized as a country that is not necessarily ready for social innovation. Can you share a little bit more about the history behind that claim or statement and the potential root cause for that comment, and the ways in which it inspired you to launch the Chief Social Innovation Center?
Yeah. So maybe I need to start by sharing a little bit about my background so that it all makes sense. So I was born in Taiwan, and I finished my kindergarten education there, and then I grew up in Singapore. So I moved to the U.S. When for college, and then moved back to China in 2003. So it was my first experience with China too in 2003 when I first moved back, and I started a school system when I moved to China. So I've been always very involved with schools, and like I mentioned, my first interaction about thinking about this problem was in 2017 when my Aspen venture was about recreating this Aspen experience, but for high school age children that I've been working with, because I thought it was such a transformative experience. I thought, hey, maybe we could do this for high school age children too. And because I always believed that they have unlimited potential and they could change the world. And there are just so many facets about the Aspen program that was really inspiring. And I thought was really important for our kids in China to experience, be a part of. But, nothing really concrete happened until 2020, the beginning of COVID, when I read a news article that the biggest social enterprise prize in the world, it's called the Hope Prize. So it's got a $1 million prize award. And it was formerly administered by the Clinton Foundation, and then the UN took over. So the story was about how Hope Prize moved into China in 2016. And in 2020, they decided to pull out of China. Yeah. So I was really surprised at that decision because, they're a very, very reputable, force in social innovation space. And just after a mere 4 years, why did they decide to pull out? So I dug in further, spoke with the administrators of this program, and their really conclusion was that China was just not ready for social innovation yet. It wasn't ready. So the background of this, these Hope Prize targeted at college-age children, college-age students, and the Hope Prize administrators realized that most of the Chinese students that are participating in this was only for the prize money. It was only for the prize money, and also the accolades that come with this prize, rather than trying to initiate social good or trying to do something positive for society. So their conclusion was that, as you mentioned just now, China's really not ready at this point for social innovation. It needs to start at a much earlier stage. And that was just a wake-up call for me, saying, hey, Jack, you started this in Aspen, but really you haven't done much with it. And now there's a calling that, you have the right platform to do something about this. And that was when I really went in full force with starting the Chi Social Innovation Center.
That is so awesome. And I love that story of just kind of being inspired by it. First, you're probably like, oh man, this was a letdown, right? But then you switch it to an opportunity, which I think is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So we both work with young people, which is really exciting, invigorating, brings you a lot of energy in life, right? Also comes with other things, right? But with all that being said, I'd love to know a little bit more about the inaugural Fellows for Change program. Y'all just announced your first high school cohort last month, and it provides high school students with social innovation, education, mentorships, lectures, site visits. Thinking about this training and this program, what are the core competencies or values of this training that you hope youth get out of it? And how do you hope this helps change societal perspectives on social innovations for young people?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So like you said, we just selected our first cohort of 20 students, just like Aspen. It's an amazing group. It's a very diverse group because that's one of the things we really care about. Make sure we have representation, not just in the big cities of Beijing, Shanghai, or Guangzhou, but also some of the more rural areas. So that was a very important facet that we're really having a representative voice for all of China. Yeah. So what are the core competencies that we thought were important for this? Maybe I could just share like it's really a joke that I read, but I think it's so representative of what we need to do for this fellowship. So there is this joke that's going around that whenever the college offers are announced in the US, so kids in the rural areas of China go hungry. So they're going, huh? What's the relationship with that? It's because a lot of these Chinese top elite high school kids, they're doing all these social projects for rural area Chinese families. But once they get in their Harvard, Columbia offers, they stop doing it. They just stop doing it. And they're doing all these social projects in high school, going out to the rural areas, helping them solve their clean water problems, solve food issues. It's only for their college application. So that's one of the core competency we thought that actually we need a much more systematic way to change the mindset, really, to think about why they're doing all this. So our framework competency consists of 3 different areas. The first area is called being, and that's where I thought is the most important. Being is the understanding of themselves, what matters to them, what are their core values, what is important to them, what is their moral compass. So that part, I think, is where we're spending a lot of our efforts helping these kids at a young age, understanding their purpose in life. So that's when a lot of the Aspen readings about the philosophy, about Aristotle, about all these great ancient philosophers comes in handy. And we're going to do that for our fellows too, really having an understanding of what their purpose in life is. Yeah, and then the other 2 areas of competencies are lumped under connecting. So, this world is all interconnected now, whether it's, between countries, China, US, all these really important bilateral relationships. So connecting is a really important part of any solution. And finally, innovating, because we're not the first to tackle this problem. Many other people have tried. And I think we have to innovate in order to effect real change. So the 3 areas of competencies are really being, connecting, and innovating.
That is so powerful. Oh, wish you had more time. I got some follow-up questions, but I'll stay on track here. That's really good, especially that first quality of being. I think that just connects so much to what I think about, for youth and nature, and just how it connects to just sparking a lot of the ideas for innovation. So that's amazing. Real quick question. Yeah, tell me more about what's different about the Chi Center project than other initiatives that have been tried in China that may not have worked as well.
Yeah. So the mission of Chi Center is really to cultivate a mindset. Like I said at the beginning, it was founded because the Hull Prize folks thought China was not ready. This mindset of giving back to society has to start at a younger age. And I think that's what you and I both have in common, that we have to start with the youth, right? That's when you can really affect change. So when I started to look at this problem, I was really shocked to find that there were really very, very few, if at all, credible organizations tackling this problem at this age. There were a lot of organizations, trying to effect change at a college level or at the adult level, but really we couldn't find anything that is targeted at youth. And that is where we really need to effect change. So I think the lessons that we learned and how we're doing it differently, there are a couple areas. One, I think the nonprofit model needs to be relooked at, especially in China, because there is no mentality for philanthropy or for being able to raise money for these nonprofits. So I think what we're doing is making sure that we're self-sufficient. We can generate the fund that we need to run these programs. So as we build our business model, we want to make sure that any revenue that we need to support this fellowship is not through donations, because that model has not been built yet. The infrastructure is not there in China. So number one, self-sufficient. Number two, I think we recognize that China is a large country, right? 13 billion people. But what made it more complicated was that it's got first world problems. So you've got the mega cities like Beijing and Shanghai, very advanced. So very much the same problems we're tackling in the US. But at the same time, you also have the third and fourth tier city, the rural areas. They're having a whole set of different kinds of challenges. They're not thinking about how to change the world. They really think about how to survive day by day, how to have a good future, a good paying job. So you need a different solution for your less developed cities in there. Yeah. And finally, I think for such a big country to effect a mindset change, you need to go wide. So touching a lot of people, you're also going deep. So you really need to have very deep impact, changing the trajectory of people. So you got to go wide and deep at the same time. So I think if we're able to make a dent in this problem, I think it does require innovation in this space. And we're hoping that we'll learn more as we go along. But basically, the areas we're focusing on, number one, is to be self-sufficient. Number two is to recognize that one solution does not fit all. China has many, many different types of problems. And number three, to effect a mindset change, you need width and depth.
I love all that. That is so amazing. Well, we have about 1 minute left, and I do just want to again affirm and shout out your work. I think so much. I'm a former history teacher, and so I will tell you this quick tidbit that as former world history teacher, I would have my kids do different things of different areas in the world and what they invented. And one time I'll never forget, this student had wrote down by the end of the series all the things that were invented in China, and they were like, I'm running out of room on my paper, right? And so it's interesting, the work you're doing now of reconnecting this idea of innovation when through history, right? It's been a powerful place of innovation. So thank you so much for what you're doing. So for the last 45 seconds, I'd love to give you the floor to share how can people learn more about your work, support your work, amplify it. The floor is yours, Jack.
Thank you. You can definitely check out more of our information on our website, QI Center, so chicenter.cn. But really, I want to use the last 20 seconds to give a shout out to the McNulty Fund, the Catalyst Fund. It's amazing, I think, what it does for our whole organization. It's not really about the prize money. I think that's really nice. But I think it really energized the entire group. All of us that were working on this give us I think it's really thank you for asking those great questions and for letting me share what the Chi Center has to the US from Beijing. And then we're going to meet the amazing Yemi AD. I'm not sure what is the best way to describe Yemi. It's so talented gathering in Dubai of last year. And I've heard him describe moonshot today to be able to share Yemi's story and to have Yemi really tell us about these incredible initiative that Yemi is working on. So maybe Yemi, Moonshot, if you have to describe in a minute or so, how would you describe Moonshot to our audience?
So thank you, Jack. First of all, thank you, and it was wonderful to hear about your venture, even though I know a bit about it from the past. So Moonshot is global accelerator for young social innovators. The reason why we try to create platform, or why are we holding that space, is because we realize how important it is to have young people at the table when deciding and shaping the future. We believe that the governance in general in the world is not very diverse and very old. And we believe that people perceive diversity as, ethnical diversity, gender diversity, but no one really talks about diversity in age. And we think that people of today, young people of today, are really very well equipped to teach us and to use technology in new ways. And also, I think they are also not burdened by all the things that we kind of get on our backs as we grow older, and that some of the decisions and some of the visions and ideas are amazing. So that's why we created Moonshot Awards, which is a global contest that seek and reward the best young social innovators in the world. We have several thousand people across 88 countries, and we give them grants. We support them with mentors. We have an amazing group of mentors, C-suite experts, scientists, professors, NGO leaders. And then we make Moonshot Camp, which is for the best people who go through this contest. We bring them for about a week-long acceleration camp where we try to catalyze their growth, and with them also growth of their organization.
Thank you, Emmy. That is just an incredible story that I think you've shared. I'm really curious because the age that we live in right now, it is full of complex problems and requires a lot of creativity and innovation. I mean, I certainly felt that in China. So given your unique background, I mean, you're a choreographer, you're a director, you're a social innovator, and I heard now you're going to be an astronaut. So how do you envision Moonshot inspiring today's youth within this social innovation space?
So I think there's two different layers to this question. One is, it's not really hard to inspire youth. I think it's much harder to inspire, the seniority. I think it's pretty easy to inspire youth. I think the youth very often is kind of looking into the right direction and is kind of ready to charge, ready to do the change-making work. So I think what's more important is to create safe space for youth to be able to do the work. Especially Gen Z and the millennial generation, they are really great in sharing the content and speaking about the impact and talking about things, but sometimes it's harder and there is this resistance into doing things. And even though, in the world they say, oh, they are lazy or they want to work on this and that, no, they just have new ways and new approach to work. And I think that we often kind of overlook that our standards are lower. I was just last week, I met Jacinda, the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, and she said something very beautiful. She said, we expect from our children to be honest and kind and generous and authentic and speak the truth. And then in some point in our lives, we stop expecting that from our leaders, from our adults, from our governance, and so on. And I think I think that is the thing that needs to be removed. When speaking about, for example, climate change, there's so much toxicity that it might feel just bad to be in a room to try to make things better. And I think we have to realize this, and we should not pollute the space. So what we try in Moonshot is allowing people to really come at the table and don't be afraid and don't be embarrassed for having a different opinion, to be able to clearly and peacefully just make your point and explain and argue about your point in a civilized way. And then maybe the other people will, with enough empathy, will then understand, and then we can maybe better approach the solution. I think, I'm coming from arts and from creative industries, and many people are fascinated with the artwork itself. What I believe and what I think is especially fascinating is the process of creating art, is the process of creating anything. I think when you see how people are creating something together, especially as a group, it has like this special magic. It emits this special energy that overcome any kind of obstacles and create bridges between cultures. And you don't really see differences. When you focus on creating together, you only see the way forward. And I think we are missing that element. So if we should do something for youth, I don't think it's to inspire them. It's maybe to clean up the way and create conditions so they can do so.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful way to put this. And I clearly felt and understood what you're saying being in China, because people have such a narrow definition of success. Over here in China, it seems like the only way you're successful is to do well in school and to have a good job. And I think what you're offering, what I hear is that it can be so much, it should be so much more. And I'm just wondering, because I have a challenge, I have a burning question for you is, we're working with a younger age group. And I feel like mentorship is a very big part of making this all work, because these are young people who, while they have the energy to passion, they may lack experience. So can you talk a little bit about how mentorship plays into a part of Moonshot, and how you're able to use mentorship effectively?
Mm-hmm. So thank you. So one big gap that we are seeing in today's generation is the inability to communicate and work across generations. Because of technology and because of language itself that is evolving at higher speed than it used to be, we have this disconnection between the families. Also, the hyper diversification, because we are not reading the same newspapers, we're not watching the same TV. Everybody, even behind one dining table, everybody is looking in a different direction, right? We don't sit and watch the same show and so on. So there is less opportunities to understand each other and less opportunities to kind of sync and calibrate each other within the families, within communities, and within our countries and cultures. So I think we need to put a special emphasis on creating a space and freedom for people across generations to be able to work together. So when I speak about mentoring, I do not see mentoring as a one-way stream coming from the older to the younger. I think the mentoring has to be redefined or re-envisioned as a both-way stream, where the person is approaching the process as an exchange, as a learning experience for both parties, where even if it's a C-suite manager, someone who exited multi-billion-dollar company, which is very often a case in mentors in our cohort, and there is a young boy from Africa who is trying to use art to eradicate poverty, and it could be, you could be laughing at it, how can this even happen? But if you take it from this angle, you can never get nowhere. I think it's really important to approach this conversation from a humble place, because it is the new perspective of people from different cultures, from different continents, that really can open eyes for us to see different patterns. Because whether we like it or not, the patterns that we live and the the patterns is like a movement, right? It's like a movement, it's structure, it's a rhythm. It becomes monotonous, and we start to be blind to new patterns. And then even if the new patterns emerge, we can't see it. And these young people can allow us to see those new patterns, and then from those new patterns, we can evolve like and envision and be inspired to create new future, not just to recycle the past and bring it to the future, but create something really new for us to put the world to live in.
You know, I hear about the scale that you're at now, 88 countries, you know, across continents. What were some of the challenges? And I'm sure there were, you could talk for days on this, but what are some of the challenges you could think of, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest challenge for me all my life was for people to trust me. I was born in a communistic Czechoslovakia as the only black kid in my country, in my city. Sorry, not country. There were a few more, but my first time I met another black kid was when I was 15, and my father was captured during revolution in Nigeria. We haven't seen him since I was 4, and I always had these crazy ideas. I felt like in the beginning not, because it was communism, so we couldn't travel, we couldn't speak the truth, which is absurd when thinking about it today. But people wouldn't believe me, and I had to kind of pursue them that the idea I come with is possible, and it's always the case, and it has not stopped until today. I'm 42 now. My most crazy idea recently was to apply 4 years ago to apply for the space mission, and again everybody was thinking I'm crazy. And then when I got my flight ticket to go around the moon with SpaceX, you would think, okay, now these people, you prove them wrong, and now maybe the next time they will trust you, but no. So I think what's important is that we believe in new potential, because this is a time of a tremendous change, and the frequency of change, thanks to the exponential growth, is going to increase. It's not going to take 10 years for something to change. And I think if we don't allow more freedom to our thought, more freedom to expectations from people around us, we are kind of blocking the potential, just by, and very often in the language itself. When we speak about someone, when we see Teresa or John, we already have a story about what John can and cannot do. And that story is limiting not only John himself, but also us with John in the dimension. What could be? What could he or she do? So I think that the challenge is for us to be more free into what the future could hold for people around us, which then can unlock their potential.
That's an amazing life story. And I don't know if many of us could claim to have the kind of experience that you have. So I'm wondering, what advice would you give to someone who really has the desire to change the world? Where do we even start?
I think that it's important not to want to change the world, because the world is changing whether we like it or not. And it's also very arrogant. It's like the Western type of thing to think like, I want to change the world. Like, who are you to want to change the world? What do you know about my world? Like, I think what we should encourage people is change the world, change your proximity, change what you know, change what you touch, what you smell, where you are. I think that's so important for us not to be arrogant and not to be entitled and not to be imposing our opinions about other cultures that are on a very different timeline. Just because we are faster or just because we have more, resources and so on. So I think changing the world, one person at a time. I think what's important is also for us to stop copying other people's success. Children are very often thinking about what they want to be by seeing something on Instagram or TikTok or television or hearing about success. But hearing about success tells you nothing about the path to success. I think it's important when you do the steps you need to do to be where you are, to be a little bit more free about what your destination is, and always look underneath your feet and think and feel in your body if you feel good in when you are. Because if you spend years and years trying to hunt your fathers or mothers or teachers or bosses or monetary arbitrary goal and you don't feel good, you fall sick, and then your potential is lost. And I think we are disconnected from our bodies, and we need to, in every step of our journey, to really feel, where we are, not in our mind, but within our guts and in our body.
Thank you, Amy. That is so inspiring. And now I'll hand it back to our moderator, Kaya. Kaya?
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you to all of our innovators, to Alex, to Yemi, to Jack. This has been a riveting conversation. I learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience has as well. A couple of themes emerged for me. One, the fact that you're all investing in young people, that's where you see the hope. And I often say the only thing that makes me not feel like we're all about to die is that every young person that I meet literally sets my world on fire. And you all just brought that to the fore. You also really talked about connectedness and interconnectedness, our relationships with one another, our relationships with nature, our relationships with our world, and Yemi, the humility that it takes in order for us to be change makers, just even in our local context. And so I want to ask you, because, we live in a world where there are lots of things going on, from war to deep polarization, to technological advances that are outpacing many of the communities that we serve. Besides the young people, because that's my light, what is it that keeps you going? What makes you hopeful that you will be able to make the change that you seek?
Such a good question. I can jump in first. It's okay.
Right?
The work that we do for Black Outside is before us because it honors our ancestors, and it's long after us. I was sharing this with one of our leaders the other day. I'm like, our work is transcends time because the land and the earth is going to be here long after we're gone, even after climate change, right? The earth and our land is so resilient. And so what keeps me inspired is just the reminders of the abundance of possibilities that nature always reflects back to us, right? I'll just share this real quick. When you look at a leaf, just one single leaf, I saw a writer say this. He said, there's a million miracles it took for that leaf to exist. Like the soil had to be right, the tree had to go right, a bird couldn't come down and swoop it, right? No one just trampled on it last minute, and then it blossomed in this beautiful thing. And that's what keeps me inspired when I go outdoors and see so much beauty in the world around us. How can I reflect that back to the communities I serve in the abundant ways that we can imagine our work manifesting?
Yeah, I paused as you asked that question because it's a lonely path in China doing this. There's not a whole lot of reinforcements. In fact, people didn't know here what social innovation really meant. So from ground zero, and a lot of times, you do ask yourself, why are you doing this? So I think what really kept me going after 3 years of persevering is you see the little bit of success that you're making when kids actually start to voluntarily pick up trash on the weekends rather than playing video games. They go on trash walking trips. It's this little successes that we have to keep amplifying, and then as little encouragement for us to keep going another step. It's really hard. So that's why I thought that one of the big I'm not sure I'm sure McNulty Prize folks understood this. That's why they set this up. But the impact it has for us, it's really, I think it's a jolt in the arm. It just keeps us going. So I think little encouragement like that is so important. And I made a promise to myself, I will give back and encourage other people who are doing the same too. And I will give them a nudge and a push whenever I can.
Yes, thank you, Jack. Yemi?
So I always say that my optimism and naivety is my biggest force in every room. And sometimes people say, yeah, but naivety is like a dumbness. And I say, no, I have high expectations from myself and from people around. But I think that naivety is beautiful because I feel the opposite of naivety is cynicism. And I rather be naive than cynical. And I think that it's good to expect the best from people. It's good to expect from because then you give them chance to prove you right. You open that pathway, that frequency, and you just, give some vibration into it. But uh, what makes me hopeful is that even though there are many things that my mind is like, wow, but this, but that, but this, so it's not easy. But if I want to just give you like a streamlined, good, positive um, reason, is that I feel that for me, being really born in a small town in Eastern Europe under the Russian rule back in the 80s, going through all the things that we went through with my mom, and then eventually being able to live in New York, fly around the moon, start a global nonprofit, work with Kanye West, doing VMAs, doing different shows. Like in one lifetime, I'm like, it's here, it's possible. I could think of
Yes.
myself, well, I have the bad color, I was born in the wrong place, I la 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 la. But in the end, I can. And I'm very optimistic and very naive when I go to schools and I tell my story to the kids. And I'm telling them I'm dyslexic and I dropped out of high school. The teachers hate to hear that, but anyway. And I tell them, and I can see a light in their eyes, and I see like they're like, well, I can do it. I can do it too. That brings me a lot of hope that this is the age when it is worth it to work, when it is worth it to be creative, when it is worth it to feel free, despite everything that's around you. That's what makes me hopeful today.
I mean, this is a whole sermon for all of the social entrepreneurs who are out there, right? Like, remember the leaf and all of the miracles that it took for the leaf to get here, and know that those powers are available to you. Celebrate the little successes along the way, because if you're doing something truly innovative, there are not a lot of people alongside of you who are doing it, and so it's lonely, but there are successes. And then optimism and naivete as your superpowers. I mean, expecting the most out of people, like these are the things that I think this community of social entrepreneurs need to remember as they go out and try to impact their little world, not even the big world. And so, continuing on this thread of sharing with our community what we've learned along the way, in one sentence or less, what did you have to unlearn in order to be able to do this work? And Jack, I'm going to ask you to start. What did you have to unlearn? How did you have to change your thinking in order to do this work?
Yeah. As a Chinese, our parents, growing up, our parents cuddle us in everything, and even tying our shoelaces. So the one thing I tell learn actually is that kids actually are capable of doing everything in the world. That's
Yes,
not to make them.
thank you. Yemi.
Fuha, I had to unlearn a lot. I had to especially unlearn my this is crazy. So doubtful character, because in the past I would be mostly punished for the good things. Yeah. So I would do something that I would believe is good, but I would be punished for it. So it created this weird relationship to things that in guts, in deep of my stomach, I would feel it's good. But that's what authoritarian regime does to you, because you see it around yourself. You see your mother being punished, your grandmother, your friends, and to unlearn that, it's some heavyweight lifting. So and it can never completely go away. So I think it has to do something with courage, looking for courage,
Mhm.
and working with fear. Being not being afraid to be fearful, even though it's like um it speaks against itself. But I guess you understand.
Alex?
My biggest learning, just having the honor of being able to visit just so many beautiful spaces and places around the world and around the US with youth, is when I go out into nature, I really had to pivot from saying, I'm going out into nature to experience this thing that's distant, to my biggest learning is, what am I learning from nature and the world around me? What is the land teaching me? What is that one leaf teaching me? What is that bird that is colorful that I haven't seen before teaching me about myself, about the land, and about just the possibilities of our world around us?
Um, so many gems in this. And I think if you were lucky enough to be on this call and hearing from these folks, you have some takeaways that I hope will fuel your journey. And next year, we expect to see you right here on this Zoom call, celebrating you as a McNulty Prize winner. I want to once again thank the Aspen Institute. I want to thank the McNulty Foundation. I want to thank the network of social entrepreneurs who are out here changing their local communities, their cities, their countries, our world. And I hope that you all will do us the favor of giving us a gift. We gave you a gift today in that we shared insights and reflections. Please do us the favor of giving us the gift of feedback. There is a survey that you'll receive following the event. And we at Aspen Global Innovators Group would love to take that feedback in and incorporate it into our session. We ask that you would join us again next Tuesday for another set of entrepreneurs doing the work. And we want to thank you for sharing with us today.